Welcome back, everybody. Well, this video is going to be a whole bunch of messed up. Anyway, we'll try to follow along. I have no idea how I'm going to stick all these videos together. I lost some, forgot to do some videos on some, and just total, it's chaos. Anyway, hope you follow along. Here we go. Little recap for the newer followers, if you didn't go back far enough to the tank. This is the original tank off my 64, and it was full of holes, probably about 20 holes on each side. So we ground it down, we filled it full of aggregate rocks, literally gravel out of my driveway, and I ratchet strapped this to the tire of my tractor, and I let it spin around for a couple hours. Made a hell of a noise, but I cleaned it out good. And then I purchased a product called Pour 15, and we relined the inside of the tank. So if you look in here, see if I can do this, it's better than new. It's got a full poly liner that is fuel resistant. You can see right through the other side there, where the light's shining through. The whole way around this tank. Now, before I did the liner inside though, when this was ground, it was easy to see the holes. We just stuck a light in and we could see all the points. And here is a JB Weld product made for repairing fuel tanks. So that's what I did to fill the main holes. I then coated the entire tank in a rust primer, let that sit up, converted on my primer, and then I went to this rubberized coating on top of it, and then I ended up pouring the Pour 15 in there, rolling it around, giving it a good seal. When I did that, there was only one leak that I found that I missed. But this is going to be the real test. We're going to put in the sending unit, get it sealed, get my spout in here, get it sealed up. Going to check this thing for leaks. Now, the spout, I don't really know what to do with it. It looks kind of cruddy, but it's clean. That's galvanized. This thing is galvanized. I don't know if they have just a spray bomb paint that'll coat this thing. I don't really need it, really. Only, that much goes in the tank. Whatever sticks out, I can give it a couple shots later on once I decide where it's going to be. But with the paint. But yeah, put this together. Get a little bit of grease just to put around the edge of this tank seal where the grommet goes. Going to be the same side for the same thing with the seal on the other side. And we'll pop it together. Now I'm putting just a very light rubber grease around here. It's mostly for this little outside lip. Some to help this slip in better, but mostly just around the lip, just to give any of that bare steel, because I did have this taped up, I didn't want to get any paint in there, but mostly just to give that bare steel a little bit of protection from elements, and also because this grommet, can you see the difference? It's huge compared to the hole. There's a deep groove. So it'll take a little bit of pushing, but it should go in pretty easy. Or it should go easy. Oh, there it goes. There we go. Man, I can barely twist that. That is so tight in there. Oh, that's gonna require some lube. There, not much, just very little, just to help things move a little better. Everybody likes it when things move a little better. All right. Oh. Oh, there it goes. Holy, that's a fit, I tell you. There you go. Just like that. There we go. On. And then that's something later on, once I decide how far out that's going to be, I can give that a shot of nice black rust paint as well too. Help protect that a little bit. There you go. Let's move around to the sending unit. So, give my little bit of grease on there. Got my sending unit going in. Can't forget the seal. Now, the sending unit here, this is my pickup. This is my signal wire here. That's where it reads. You can see how it's isolated. Got the stud here. It's isolated from the frame all the way through. It's isolated on the back side. It's also isolated where it goes into the actual pickup inside where the gauge reads. So everything looks good, except I did create myself a problem in doing this tank. I'll just let you guys think about that for a minute. Maybe think about what might I have done to mess up the system. There are a couple notches on here. This has to go in. There we go. The right spot. See, oh, it seems a little low on the bottom. Just gonna get a screwdriver and see if I can push that up a little bit. All I'm doing is just getting the rubber seal more centered there. All right, now, oh, and the new ring that comes with this thing. Look at that. Doesn't work. It passes right by the locks. And that was the ring that came with it. Thank God I cleaned and saved the old one. It is like twice as thick. And I only got to turn it halfway and it already starts to jam in place and lock that in. So I'm just going to snug it by hand here. And I just got to get a hammer and a chisel and just kind of tap this around to tighten that up. But as it sits here right now, got my nice rubberized tank, cleaned, hopefully leak-free. Got my new sending in unit in here with my pickup line. Have you figured out the issue? Well, here it is. This is the issue. Factory. We have a nice galvanized tank going under the car. We have nice galvanized metal tank straps under the car, touching the car. The end of this pickup is metal, touching the metal ring made to the metal tank, which creates a ground for the pickup unit. The pickup line on this side, this is the ground. But unfortunately now, I have a rubberized tank, so my metal straps that are going to my frame in my car are touching a rubberized tank, and I now have no connection at all. And I was thinking about this the other day when I was going through things in my mind. So it created a bit of a problem. Not a big problem, but what I do have to do is once I get this underneath, I'm going to do it right here on one of the corners. Probably this corner or this corner, either or. I have to drill a small hole out on the edge, making sure I don't get within the seal. Drill a small hole, buff off the metal, and I have to put a ground wire from my tank to my frame for two reasons. One, for sparks when I'm filling the tank, but mostly for my sending unit. Just one positive wire going to nowhere, literally, going in, that's it. There's no connection. There's nothing for it to tell the resistance on the other side as that float goes up and down. So yeah, just something that if I never thought about it, I probably would have been fighting that in my head forever while I'm trying to get that sending unit and the gauge to work on the car. All right, just got a little hose and a valve on here. Nothing fancy. Get my air line. See if we can get some air in this tank. At least make it swell up a little bit or something. Woo! she's swelling up like a stuck pig. All right. Now get some soapy water. Let's see if we can find a leak. First thing we get around the fill neck here. There's nothing there. Get all around it really good. Nothing. All in around this cap. No bubbles there at all. That's awesome. That is awesome. We got no leaks whatsoever in the main, in my fittings anyway. So I'm gonna put my camera down here, and I am actually gonna go over, I'm gonna spray the entire thing. I'm gonna wash, but I'm gonna spray the entire surface, all seams all the way around, just to make sure that I got no surprises. All right, the sound you hear is the dripping, but I've got the whole tank. So I spray the whole thing, and I rub the soap right down every seam, on top of every rib. Got lots of water, lots of soap on here. And listening at the same time, I've got her, she's pretty swelled up. There's a dent in the other side. I wonder if I could pop that out with air, but you know what, it's probably not a big deal. But there is nothing. This is awesome. And I got all my seams done here as well. Now, I am going to drill my hole on this side. I'm going to do it while it's down here as well too, just to make sure there's enough sealant right in through here. I'll do it close to the edge so I can check it again. But nothing at all. That is awesome. Well, I'll wipe that off. I'll check the bottom side. And there we are. Same for the bottom. I did all the seams right to the edge, everywhere. She is good. Perfect. Saved. There was a lot of skeptical people out there when I started doing this, just because there was like, I don't know, what was there, 30 holes? 37 holes? I can't remember now. That's how many holes in this tank. The bottom only had a couple, and I'm assuming that's because the fuel was in there for so long that it finally got one little hole when it started to weep out, helped protecting it in there. And the top, well, any moisture coming through the trunk, because it was rotted right out, sat on that top the whole time, and that's why the top was bad. But that is a safe tank. That's why, my motto always is everything gets one chance at life. Everything's got a second chance. You know what? If I spend a reasonable amount of time on it, then, you know what? It saves me money. This tank was like $400 something. It is, I would consider it almost better than new. There is no steel exposed in this tank anymore. It is completely sealed and treated. And I did that for less than $60. That tank is done and ready to go. So it'll be back in the car, ready for another 1,000,000 miles. Oh, and speaking of saving things, I forgot to mention the other day, I saved my collar that was on my upper control arm. Took a little bit. Got a couple little gnarly edges on it. I had to put a wrench on there, but I did save it. There you go. Saved myself like $14. There we go. Tank is complete. And you know what? It smells springtime fresh as well too. I used the good stuff. I used the good soap in that thing. And there we go. Just one little piece of tape over that. Just keep the dirt out. I'll set this aside. We'll get to this later on. Well, it's gonna happen. One way or another, this engine is running today. And this has been a long time coming. Definitely a long time coming. So I'm back out here. I have gone over this thing a million times, double checking to make sure everything's good. Everything on the outside needs to be tight. You know what? I went through the inside building it. I was very meticulous. It's as good as I can do it. As for a shady tree mechanic working out of a shop, it's as best as it can be. So this morning, I've just gone over and I've hooked up my wiring harness again, make sure everything's good. Everything's working well, key on, key off. I can cut power to the coil. If I have to, I can yank a battery cable off. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. I got her in, she's in park. Transmission's in neutral. Neutral safety switch, it does work. I got her at top dead center and I opened up my distributor just to make sure that I am on number 1, which is, I got it marked with a piece of tape still. So it is to the number 1 cylinder. Everything should be good. So carburetor is tightened down. Got her snugged up there. Everything turned out good. All my controls are free flowing. And I've confirmed that it is returning to 0 to make sure there's no issue there. It's good and tight, it can't rattle. And the secondaries are moving smooth. Now, got my vacuum line on here. Not really required for what I'm doing here for a quick startup, but I did put the vacuum line on for the timed advanced. And then, of course, I have my lines down here. So, going to the engine, put in a little fuel line here, or fuel filter here in line, just so I can see what's going on. And there's my pickup. And I'm going to be running out of jerry can for now. So the first few cranks here, I do have the coil disconnected. First few cranks, I'm just going to see if I can pick up the fuel, make sure that fuel pump is working. It's new, but you know what? It's been sitting out here, sitting on this engine for almost a year now. So we'll make sure that's working. They can push the air out. If that's good, we'll get her hooked up to the carb. We'll start filling those bowls up. All right, I did pour a little bit of gas in there just to help get some of the air out. And it is pushing pretty good. That is pushing a lot of fuel through there. No issues at all. No issues at all. So that should be a good delivery. Let's hook that up to the carb. All right, so I cranked her over. We got fuel up there. If you look down inside, we are squirting. We are shooting into the carburetor. So that's it. All intents and purposes, it's time to bring the thunder. It's time to crank this thing over and see what happens. Now, I don't know what the sound's going to do on this camera here on the phone. She's going to be loud. I'm going to get myself some ear mufflers on. All right. Ears going on. Coils on. Carbs juiced. Here we go. Yeah, baby! Whew. Oh my God, is that awesome. Oh my, that sounds good. I gotta get it. I want to get it warm, but I can't. There's no water in her. But it cut out. I ran dry. It wasn't picking up, so I moved my can again, and I got it primed. I had to open the door. She smells a little ripe in here. But with it primed here, gonna get it up again here. It's not. I just got to be careful. I don't need too much heat. There's no heat at all in this block. I got no leaks. Everything seems to be going good. I was wondering about my oil pump, and I got no leaks at all around there. So we're gonna give her another go. Transmission works! That is awesome! Woo! That was pretty cool as well too. I was able to not park, but putting it in neutral, it just about stops it. Put it in reverse, and I can go through the 3 speeds, and you can see it turning quicker. Man, God, what a time. Man, that's nice. I'm sorry. I'm pretty excited. I'm sorry if I'm talking too much, or just I don't know what to say. Just the happiness of having all that work come together, and like no trouble at all getting that to run. It's just like it come off the showroom floor, and the response on that throttle, geez, it's almost there. For power wise, yeah, we definitely have to play with the timing, but for idling and getting it running, that's it. That's where she needs to be. And that is it for the engine. There is nothing left to do. She runs. There'll be some tuning, of course, some adjustments on that transmission, clean up the wires, make everything tiddly-boo and tidy, make it a little prettier. There might be a couple little odds and ends that go on here as well, too, to shine it up. But now, I got to get back on this. Actually, I got to get parts. Bushing's got to come in, man. Come on. Shipping places are driving me nuts. I need my front end bushings, my lower ball joint, upper ball joint, upper tie rod bushings, upper control arm bushings, and all that stuff. Don't need the tie rod and connecting link and drag link. They can wait. I just got to get the suspension under the front of this car so I can set it down, get an engine hoist in here, get that engine in, finish off the drive shaft, finish off that rear diff, and then get her turning and running once again in the car. But anyway, love you guys all. Thank you so much for the love, the support, the comments, the likes. Everyone's helped me along the way. Mopar, more power, and that chrome is going to get you home. But it is time to get back onto the rear of the 64. And the main problem, the main thing we got to get going here is this stupid rear seal. You remember back, I actually got a few of these. And this is the only one that actually fits in the casting, but it has a huge flange around it. Unlike the original, which is just barely not even an eighth all the way around there, because it has to fit inside this guard. That's the rock guard, or the abrasion guard. And if I put this on, it just it sits up right against it. I guess, you know what, you could probably take this off and use this to save as the shield, but you know, this is so thin, I think that'll slowly start picking away. But we have means. It's only a single, it's not like it's wrapped over on itself or anything. So I am honestly just gonna take the old snips and cut around it till it's got just a little edge on it. We'll clean it up and we'll see if that works. There we go. I mean, it's definitely a little sketch. I've done worse by a long shot, but you know what? That's what I need. It's all I need. Just like that, to fit right down inside there. That's going to be perfect. It's still got a lip around it, so I don't have to worry about it going too far. And should definitely, there was no warping at all. It came off perfect. Just a nice little coil. So make sure this is clean. Make sure there's no little pieces on that seal. We're going to clean the end of the housing underneath the 64, and we're going to pop this thing in. All right, I just crawled under here to throw in the pinion seal. So I got it in there right nice. It was a little tough getting in there. She was extra tight. I had to use a block of wood as a bumper to go all the way around. I didn't have a setter for setting a seal big enough to go over the shaft here long enough, so piece of wood it is. I just did it slow, went around it nice and gently, put a little grease just around the outside so it goes in there. Everything is still good. Now I'm just gonna go get my yoke, lube it up, shove it in there, and try to get this thing torqued down. I think it's like 245 foot-pounds. I might have to wait till she's on the ground or get some wheels that I can put up on blocks to help hold it from moving, because just being on these 4 jack stands, so I'm floating in the air here, I'm pretty sure I'd just pull her right off. There we go. Now, I just got it snugged up in here. That's it. But I got a gap in behind my collar, which is good. And I can feel, when I slide in, I can feel it hitting the bearing that's in there. And it also has a spacer that's behind that, so I can get my proper spacing. But like I said before, this is like 275 foot-pounds to crank that down, and I'm not doing that when it's sitting up on the jacks. So it's snug enough that I can put the lube in there, get the oil in there, and rotate this around a bit just to slowly get that gooping around in there. But yeah, I'm not gonna crank on that thing until I get some wheels on her, front and back. And this will actually lift up, and I'll probably put them on some blocks and lock it just so I can get a good pull on her, because pulling sideways on that, I would easily pull this car right off these stands, and I don't need to be getting squished under here. Well, time to work on the drive shaft. So my trunnion boot. Took quite a while to get this. I've actually had it sitting here for a while, but it took a while to get this. And I mentioned before, I think, a couple videos back, I anticipated it coming with the boot, a couple new straps, and the grease for it, which it did not. So I have had to order the tool just through Napa, and I got some straps coming. It's pretty cheap. It's actually cheaper than what I could get on Amazon. And I got the proper grease I need for in there. But this boot, this little boot, has to get on right here. And this does not come off. So I have to get that over that and all the way down. So those who've been following, if you go back, you'll see where I clean this drive shaft up and this trunnion. Got it all taken care of. Bearings and everything are still wrapped in a cloth over there, all nice and pretty. There was no rust at all inside here. And there's no pitting at all on the slides of where the bearings ride. The ends of the bearings, they're just like a U-joint bearing, all the pins, but theoretically they don't turn. This thing is in a straight line. They may swivel, maybe turn slowly just from vibration or whatnot, but all they do mostly is swivel. They don't really spin around the shaft. Of course, this is spinning in this direction, and these bearings just help the balls of this thing kind of turn as it goes. because for the most part, this thing stays stationary. But we do have to get this boot over here. Now I'm going to get it warmer. I'm going to get a little warmer. We're going to get some grease. Oops. Get some grease. Lube this all up. We got to be really careful we don't rip that boot on these corners. And then we also got to get a stick or something that has a blunt end to try to shove that boot all the way down in there so I can start working this collar all the way back and get it to pop out the other side. All right, I got a nice layer of grease over everything, both ends and all around the inside of the trunnion, I guess the union part itself. I got a piece of dowel here. I rounded off the edges, sanded it down so it's a nice round ball on the end, just like a push rod. Because all I got, once I get that down in there, I'm going to have to get this rod in and kind of hook it in these little bellows and try to push it through the best I can. But I got to be careful that I don't rip right through it. For whatever reason, I guess the way they're made, this low point that I can't get onto, I can feel it. It's thick. And where it's bellowed out, it's thinner. So they must just extrude this where this is the main part of the mold, and as it gets to the next spot, that's where it opens, like spans out like a balloon, causes it to be thin. And then once we get to the back side here, got to make sure this goes on the right way. It goes this way. This piece is inside the trunnion, while the outer jacket is on the outside. And that helps seal it so we don't get too much grease down this part. We're going to have some grease here for the slide of it going in and out, but we want a nice good seal up on this end so we can make sure that the bearing is fully encased, just like a wheel bearing. Oh my goodness. Well, I got it in there, but now it is solid. It is just poking at the back, but there's no more room to get it through. I can't get it. It's all bunching up against this piece here, I assume. The edge is just inside here, but I don't know. How do they put these together factory? They must have these on and just pulled back with a cover on it and they weld the stub on, because this job would suck. You'd be like the new guy or the low guy on the totem pole if this is what you had to do all day. Or maybe they had a special tool for it, but man, she is a tight squeeze. Keep working at it. There we go. I got it on. All the way on. Now I gotta be careful here. I moved this a couple times and it popped off. So it'd be awesome to have bands right now, but I don't want to try to stretch the old ones on there in case I cut the rubber. I'll wait till I get the new ones tomorrow and I'll put those on. So, but it does move nice, and I'm able to get that shoved right back. It kind of folds in on itself like an accordion, and I can get all the grease on there. But now comes the fun, tedious part. I got to get all these bearings, just a little dab of the high-tech grease on there, and get them to stick inside here and put them all the way around perfectly. And this thing hasn't moved since I put it here, so all my bearings are still there. I recounted them. I got even numbers on both sides, which is good. My cap is ready to go on, and yeah, I think that's about it. So I'll get my just little bits like that. That's all I need, just enough to make it sticky. Try to stick it all around the edge there. I'll lube them up my fingers as I go, and then we'll lube the end of the pins that go inside those bearings. So when I push this on, once I get it started, I'll have to use my thumb or my hand and kind of force it on. That'll help squish the grease through everything. Then when it's done, I'll fill the end with grease as well. And these caps will get forced down on top, squishing all that grease in there, keeping it all nice. And hopefully, that's it. Hopefully she goes together. Well, that wasn't terrible, but it was less than fun. I still got a couple bumped up there. I can't get them all shoved down tight. Just the thickness of the grease on top of each one and a little layer that I put inside the little ball itself is too thick for all the bearings to seat all the way down. It's very little grease that's actually in there. There's such a tight tolerance. I am assuming it's the heat of the first time use when all the oil starts to ooze around. That's what really gets in there. But yeah, I do got it in. I'll try to get that one popped down just a little bit. You can see sticking up there. Then I'm going to see if I can slide it over the shaft. There we go. Got it on. So there's the spacer on the bottom, then the bearing or the ball itself with all the needles in it. Then there's a little tiny shim that goes underneath here. And this is the, I guess, the wear cap that slides up and down in there. That's why I was saying this doesn't really spin. This is more of a slide side to side, just a little bit that goes down there. And then, of course, because it's on a bit of an angle, there will be points where it kind of rotates. But this never really spins quick. It's not like a huge one at the back. So looks like it's gonna be good. Went on okay. Now, unfortunately, the next one is gonna be upside down. I gotta try to hold it together while I'm doing it. Sliding that ball down and all those little bearings trying to push up. And of course, you're not perfectly square because there's no tolerance for side to side. As soon as I went sideways a little bit, half of them started shoving out. I had to take it off and make sure they're all in place again. But they're all in. There's none on the floor, none stuck to my hands. And I still have the same number, 31, over there that go on the other side. There we go. You can kind of see how those balls fit in there. The up and down slot is controlled by the ones that are on the actual bearings. So I shouldn't say up and down. Of course, this is traveling, so up is relative. But anyway, this movement is the bearing, and the ends are little slides, and that helps keep it, tight down the tube. Like there is, if I can wiggle this, I know there's grease in there, but there's no movement up and down those at all. They're just touching the sides on both sides. Now there is enough grease behind this that when I pull this out, the air is trying to squish out the back side here in the grease, which is good. That's what I want. I want this thing full. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to burp the back here and try not to get too much grease out. Bring this forward, and I'm going to almost pack the inside of that full of grease. Clean this up, put my cap on, which I need to not glue on, but I need to put sealant on there to seal it on. So I'm going to have to spin my engine around here and kind of set it in place so I can get that seal squished down so it dries overnight. I'm just going to use Ultra Blue, and that'll give it a good seat. And then I can take it off when it's all cleaned or all dried tomorrow and set this aside for when it's time to put the engine in. And there we go. We are all together. Pulled together nicely, snugged up in there, and I didn't get blue goop all over the place. So, you can see little tabs there. I was able to fold them over nice. I went in there, the trunnion actually sits about, 3/16, maybe not quite a 1/4 inch inside the end of the yoke coming out of the transmission. So it helps fold those tabs right over, and then once they're in there, you can tap it down tight. But that's it. Pick up the tool for the straps tomorrow, so I can put them on, and that'll be it. Drive shaft will be done. Engine, transmission complete. Drive shaft will be done. Now all I got to do is fill that rear diff. The rear end fluid's easy to get, but I got to find out what's equivalent to the Sure Grip additive that was put back here in '64. It is a friction modifier. I'm going to make sure I get the right stuff for those clutches. I don't know if maybe they make Sure Grip still. I'm not sure. Now it's time to put some of these CV bootstraps on to hold this thing on there. So they come in like 3 different sizes, and they're all the same price. So why wouldn't you just get the longest one you can? They're cheap. So I got 2. Big one and one for my small one. Now the small one down here, inside, on the cast part that's welded to the drive shaft, same thing. It's got a bump, just like a hose barb, same as this side. And that's where this is going to fit in there just nicely. But to do it, I had to buy a new tool. Nothing fancy. Never used one before. According to the back here, it's 2 easy steps. So I think we can get her done. So this CV band tool I brought in from Napa. 30950. Professional 1500 series, because I am a professional, so I should have a professional tool. But there is nothing fancy about it. Now, this one was pretty cheap. You can get one about twice this price, and it's an all-in-one thing. The only difference is this one, you have to use a ratchet or wrench and a 5/8 socket to go with it. All right. I would think this is pretty straightforward. I don't think this is rocket science. So we get this snugged up. And I can feel in this rubber, right there at the end of my finger, there's the bump. It's just like I said, it's like a raised edge. So we're gonna make sure we're just up against the rubber here. We know we're behind it. We're gonna do it this way because I am right-handed, and that'll make it easier for me to use my ratchet. It snugs against there. And this should make sure I'm good all the way around. Yep. Oh yeah, it's snugging that right in. Now how tight I should go, I don't know. It's a fairly thin band. If I break it, well, I'm hooped. I only bought 2. So that's... Well, there you go. I can see it. You know what? I can see it pulling right into the rubber. So we're going to call that good. Now, supposedly that adds a little extra torque and tautness to it. We push it over to hold it in there. This should come off. There we go. There we go. That was pretty easy. Nothing to it. I got a good indent into my rubber. Oh, and I cannot turn it anymore. It's awesome. It's awesome. Now this one, I actually want to pull. Let's see, where's the end at? Oh, there we go, right there. Just want to make sure I got good extension of the rubber. I can feel my bump ending right there, so we're good. I can really feel that one squishing that into the side of the rubber. Bend her over. No sharp edges touching that rubber, that's good. Look at that. Professional. I learned something new. Yeah. And there's the last nut. Oh yeah, stuff's good and dry. Where it's stuck to the outside, it's coming off like a rubber band. And I'm gonna have to get, oh, there it goes. Perfect. Yeah. I'll have to clean a little bit off out of there just to make sure it goes in nice. But I think it came out good. I got a baler belt. Definitely way more than I need. But you know what? Stuff's gonna come in handy. It is perfect. It's probably just maybe just under a quarter thick. It's got a little bit of texture on one side, of course, and smooth on the other. This is exactly what I need to put 2 strips down this tank to stop from rubbing on the bottom side of the trunk deck. It's 7 inches wide. Man, it couldn't be any better. That is exactly center of where the straps will go underneath. So I cut them 30 inches long. Nice 7 by 30 chunk. And that'll be perfect. It's a good, like I said, it's almost a 1/4 inch thick. So this is the top of the tank. It'll go against the bottom of the trunk deck. And of course the straps, they got these tapered spots, will come up through here on the back and up through here on the front. Put a little tension on there. That'll help pull that together and stop that tank from chafing on the bottom of the car. Now it originally did have a rubber mat under here. It was thin, like maybe 1/8, which is probably fine, except for it was as crispy as a potato chip when I dropped that tank out, and you could just crumble it into dust. So this will have some life to her, help keep that tank from chafing through. So now I just got to make my ground. Well, it's a little dark. I didn't bring a flashlight with me, but I'm already under here. Now I'm going to say the tank's not heavy, but I highly underestimated how awkward that was to do by myself. But tank is in. It is tight. It ain't going nowhere. Got my rubbers in here. You can see the edge just coming to the side. Got the rubbers in. Everything looking good. Got room. I can put my whole hand in the top here, right beside where the fuel line's got to go. So there's good space there. Nut and stud for my pickup. And of course my ground is going to be here. I'll end up running this up. I don't know if I'll run it. Well, I can't run to the floor, but you know what? Actually, I can run it to this side here. This is a big open cavity. There's a larger, I don't know what you call a subunit to the bottom of the rear part of the body for this thing. I could put it there, bring it right up, and then you won't see it outside the car. And that'll be my ground, and everything should be good. Man, it's been a long time since I own a vehicle with gas fill at the back like that. Last one was my Firebird, my old Fire Chicken, 1980 Fire Chicken. Had the license plate, I can't remember if it flipped down or if it flipped up. But that's the last time I had a vehicle like that. And she's under there. Now, you can see the 2 red straps right now. But remember, a bumper goes right up to this. Dips around here, so you won't see any of that underneath. But I got my light now, so let's go take a look, see what it looks like. Man, does that red ever stand out? That is crazy. That is crazy how bright that red is. Man, it looks good. I gotta get rid of, still gotta get rid of this trailer hitch. I'm gonna probably have to cut those off and then I'll undercoat underneath them, but yeah, I gotta get rid of that hitch. But would you look at that? And a little better view from the other side. So yeah, you can see where my fuel line will go onto the nipple right there. It's in a good spot. Put a little scuff. couple little scuffs on the bottom of the tank putting it up there. I'll probably hit that, give a little touch up. But yeah, good up there. There's the nipple or the stud that I run my wire from for the reed, and of course my ground down there. That's it. Another part of the 64 done. You know what? Cleaning parts and painting parts are good, but it feels so nice when stuff actually starts going together and going on. Man, things looking good. Looking real good. All right, now on to the next step. I'm not sure where we're at. Bouncing around here. It's getting hard to keep track of these videos. I got to really make out a better plan of how to set this up. But we're into a little bit of iffy territory here. So this is, of course, the drag link inner and outer tie rods for the car, for the 64, which I cannot get all at the moment. I had an issue with some ordering. Two things. One, the cheap ones that, not cheap, I call reasonable price that I thought I was getting, apparently cannot be shipped because, I don't know, they didn't give me a reason. They just sent me an email saying that they suspect my order will not ship, and I noticed that when I go back on their site, the outer tie rods have now been removed. So either they were wrong, bad stock, or whatever. I can get the inner ones. They're expensive. The drag link, it's expensive, but it is available. But for the time being, I've made the decision, it's a hard decision, but I've cleaned these up. I've ground them down, blasted them off. I've taken them apart as far as I can, and I've got all the ball joints cleaned out. I've soaked these in brake clean to break down the old grease. Got them moving all freely and nice. Got all the old grease out till it's gone clean when I'm washing it, and I've used compressed air. And I got them back to moving freely, but dry. One of them did have a grease nipple in it. It was replaced at some point. But now, I have a second one with a grease nipple because I've decided to drill these, grease them, which this one has worked. You can see the grease coming through, though I'm not going to grease them until after I paint them, the rest of them. But now, this thing is like new. I could easily move this with my thumb, side to side, up and down. They turn, and there is like next to no play in them. Again, this is not a permanent fix, not a fix of any kind. This is a make do, so I can get this car together. I need the wheels on because it's time to start getting ready to drop that engine in there. So I have a 1364 bit. The grease nipples that I picked up are 1/4 by 20. So that's the bit I'm going to use, 1364s, to drill my hole and to set my tap in there. Now, I took a measurement off the one that has a grease nipple already in it, and it made the thickness of this cap. Like these are thicker end caps. Just that's what holds the whole ball joint in there, the tie rod ball joint anyway. They're just under 1/4 inch thick. So I got my bit and I got a piece of tape on it here, so I know when to stop. And that's actually should stop like just as it pokes through. Once I feel that it's like a stretch, then I'm going to stop. I have my vacuum here, and I use that to suck up all the filings. And then, of course, I can get in there with a little dental pick and a flashlight just to make sure I got no little filings or swath or anything in there. And this is what we're going to do. This is how we're gonna get through this and make it work. So let's give her a go here. Right there, I can just feel the stretch. Now I'm going to turn my vacuum on and make sure I get all those pieces out while I drill. There it goes. There's that last little pop when it went through. Now there's just a touch of grease still in these on the very ends, which is nice because it makes so the parts don't just fall down inside. So now I'll get my flashlight, my dental pick, and we'll clean that out. So with the light, see if I can get this to focus. Maybe, maybe not. There it goes. There. You can see that is the top of the ball. That's right there. And this one I don't even have to clean out. There is nothing. Not even a little piece in there, which is good. Turning of the drill pulls everything out anyway. And also, with that little bit of grease in the bottom that's still there, as soon as it touches the grease, when it sucks that grease up, it just pulls all the filings with it. So that's good. Now I can get my tap in there and put some threads on it. So with this upside down, I've run my tap in here. And I've got some good turns. I got threads all the way up until I feel it getting tight. So I know it's hitting the ball. Use the vacuum for a little suction. And of course, got my pick here again. I can see there's no... It does good. It does really good. Now we got our grease nipple here, or our zerk. Depending on what part of the world you come from, or depending on what way you like to call them. Now these zerks are tapered. They go in nice at first, and they start getting really tight. And you want to snug it up, breaking one off would really suck. And there we go. I have a grease nipple in the end of my tie rod end. So I took a quick minute there and threw some paint on these, taped them up, put a little grease in there, and it started coming through all the way. And I tell you, these things move like new now. Don't know what kind of life it's going to have on it, but you know what? It's going to get me through this temporary hurdle till I can get some new ones. At least get it together anyway. So, got both ends done. And I got some parts. So it's nice to see things starting to roll in here. Got myself some upper and lower ball joints. And I got my joiners, or my adjusters for my tie rods. Now, I've gone through. I did a test fit on the left-hand side. I got a lower ball joint installed, got a tie rod assembled sitting there over there on the floor, and I even got a torsion bar and lower control arm installed on the left-hand side. So, gotta pull some stuff out. Gonna show you exactly what I was doing. All right, we're kind of finally up into the video here, where I hope that things start smoothing out, not so erratic, and try to get down to more of a better timeline. I've been trying to get my TikTok and YouTube together so that what's going on one is what's actually going on the other. And unfortunately, YouTube's been far behind, and don't really have much of an excuse for that. But anyway, we're going to try to catch up on it. So here we are. We have ball joints. We are starting off on the lowers. I do not have my upper controller and bushings yet, so I don't want to put the ball joints in those because there's going to be a lot of moving around. But here they are, and they are thread in, which I won't say it makes it too much easier because, man, these things are tight to get in there. Even with things being cleaned up, which we do, we've got to clean this up first. And of course, we got an 1 7/8 nut on the end of that. That's what that is. So we got ourselves what I've been told is referred to as a bow. A big old wrench. Make sure we clean the threads out of there. Don't feel any bumps or anything. And actually on the ball joint itself too, there is a coating that's on here. We're just going to give it a little buff, nothing crazy. taking anything off, but just polishing up a little, just make it a little smoother. And then with this, putting it in there, gonna put a little bit of copper coat. Just in case we ever have to get this thing apart again. Not that I ever want to, hopefully I don't have to. But we're gonna put just a little bit on here, just to help those threads out a bit as we turn it in. And hopefully we'll have no issues. Just gonna go in like that. It does take force the whole way. It's a tight fit, and it's a very aggressive thread, so it takes a little while to get it through. But I'll work on it here for a bit. Putting the big old bow onto the big wrench, and we'll get her cranked down. Ball joint in, nice and tight. And if you're wondering what the torque is, yep, that's right, all of it. As much as I can put on that 22-inch long wrench with a pipe wrench on the end is as tight as I can get that. My table weighs, I don't know what, 600 pounds. I can lift that off the floor with it, with that leverage. So that's it. It's as tight as she's getting. I'm sure there's a special socket for that from factory, but it is what it is. It's in, it's good and tight. I hit it with a little bit of paint underneath just where I scratched it up with the wrench. Got a nice shiny new bump stop on there. But now, grabbing the old, oh yeah, good thing I'm not a basketball player. Grabbing a tie rod adjuster. Gonna put the tie rod together. Now I did measure them originally before I took them apart. So I know exactly what it's supposed to be. The left-hand side was, I think it was 3 3/4 inch, or 13 3/4 of an inch. And I think it's 13 1/4. I have to check my book. But we'll pull this out. We'll start getting that ready. All right, so it was actually 13 1/2. So there's my MS adjuster there. Of course, one side is left-hand thread and one side is right-hand thread. So that when you turn this in the middle, it pulls the two joints together or pushes them apart. Now, they don't mark which end's which. That doesn't feel right. This feels like the left-hand thread, I think. It is. So we have the left-hand thread here. We'll get it started. I'm just going to bring it in to the inside here. That's going to be my spot to start, because on the other one, I had to do 30 turns all the way in order to get it to my mark. So this will just give us a good place to start. So there we are there. Of course, the other one is the standard right-hand thread. There we are there. So now I'll just start, I'll put this in probably about 20 turns, put this one in 20 turns, measure it and keep going back and forth till I get it all the way in. It's probably going to be more than 30 turns because 30 turns brought it to 13 3/4, and I need to bring this down to 13 1/2. And we get a tie rod together that's 13 1/2 inches center to center. Now, put a little bit of grease. That one's squirting out a little bit on both sides here, just to get the knuckle filled up. It's going to be a little bit before I can get the tie rods put on. So those I gotta wait for those top control arm bushings. So once they're in, then I'll be able to start worrying about getting all this together. But just wanted to get it set up. I still got a good 1/2 inch to come together for adjustment, and of course I can go out as far as I need. But this is as close as I can get it to how it was on the car when I took it off. So hopefully the distance is somewhat close. Next thing I'm going to grease while I'm at it here is this drag link. Now, I got one end done already, and I did it using this. This is a needle greaser. This is an 18 gauge needle, and these ends are sealed on the inside. So originally the seal would be put in, the ball would be dropped in there, and then it's pressed in and this end is crimped over to make it permanent. So there's a rubber seal in there. And there's grease in them already. I cleaned it up the best I can, but I want to get better grease in there. So what this does is you can see the edge of the seal there. You don't want to go through the seal, but you can get right in beside it. And you're going to work your way all the way down into the joint as far as you can go. We put the grease gun on the end of this. It's got a nipple, just like a grease nipple. And we just start pumping it in. We'll keep pumping it in until it starts to come out on the other side. Then we'll move the needle another spot and we'll do it. It'll go all around. The other side, I did about seven or eight different spots to get it in there. And that'd be how I re-grease these ends. Now I'm going to put the torsion bar into the car. Just get myself all prepped up here. Got my torsion bar, and if you remember back, I have marked the edges. They got little nicks in them. So I know one nick goes to the back of the car, the double nick goes to the front, and those little notches there that are marked, they correspond with little notches that I put on the other parts. So the back one, that's the little notch there. And on the top one, it's right here, and that's the peak of the hex on that side. So over time, like this thing is 60 years old, sitting in the forest, I'm sure those torsion bars got a curve to them, natural curve. So we want to make sure that we stick as close as we can to that curve. So I got them full of grease inside, just gooped right up. That end of that rod does have to slide back and forth in there a little bit. Got my boot ready to go, the dust boot for the back one so the dirt doesn't shove down there while you're driving. And also my torsion bolt. Got the coned washer on there. This is we'll call it the nut, but it's the round bar. There's a spot in the frame that is kind of hollowed out, and that fits right in there. Stops from turning, gives it a good seat. Got a little bit of copper coat on there, don't want it gummed up too much, but just enough to keep the threads good so that if I ever have to take this thing down, I don't know, God forbid I have to take it apart again, but at least it'll be easy and good to take apart. So, not much I can film here. I can't video. Not much I can video. Not like I can put this thing under there. My tripod's not slow enough. But once we get it together, we'll give you a show what went on. Whew. A little bit harder than you would think, but there she is in. Now, you can see I have the shock in there, but I only got one. I had a little problem with shipping. I'm still missing a shock. I got another one coming, but it's just kind of a pain. But having the shock in there and holding the lower control arm up is real nice. For putting that back part on, we'll show you that in a second. But everything is just hand tightened. So I got the bolt for the main spindle going through, just finger tight. Same thing as down here. And my main torsion bar for my torsion bolt back here. This one here, you can see the bolt hanging down. I just got that finger tight as well too, so there's no tension on this at all. And then of course the rod going all the way up. All I gotta do now is get my grease gun. I didn't want to make too much of like an air jam. When you push that in, the air kind of compressed in there, makes that the grease makes it seal up pretty good. So I'll just get my grease gun again, fill up a little bit more grease in here, and slide this boot down and pop it over the edge. And that'll be her. That'll be both control arms in, lower control arms and the torsion bars. You can see that one just hanging down low. That's because I've taken the shock off, and then it's hanging on the adjuster, which has actually now gone up just because that's down. And that's going to be the whole purpose of that, is once it's all together with the spindle on, bringing the two halves together, we'll crank these adjusters down. That's going to want to force that lower control rod down, which of course will be attached to a wheel, and it'll lift the front up and level it. And if we need to, we can try doing some shims or something back here. I'll try to level that out. Hopefully it won't be too bad. We'll get her done. I got to do something with a power steering pump. She's just in primer. I think I might just do it silver for the hell of it and make it look nice and pretty down there. But that's it. This is where we are at on the TikTok. We are all caught up. So the only thing I'm waiting on to completely put all these parts back together in the car, really, is the upper control arm bushings. It's all I need. Now, These the sway bar bushings and the drag links. I guess you call them drag links as well too. I'm not sure. Maybe they're just another torsion bar that goes to the front. The bushings in them, they're a little wore. The holes are a little sloppy inside. They still hold pretty good, but there's a kind of a fix for them that I found online. It involves cutting off the weld that's in here. We close this gap up a little bit. We put a spacer. We tack a washer to the bottom side. That'll just help squish this up a little tighter, because these bushings are nowhere to be found. I cannot find them. These ones here, these are just the hangers for the front torsion. They do nothing except for support it so it doesn't droop down. I may have a lead on those. These will just go in temporarily, real temporarily, put them on. This one's actually not too bad at all. It's actually fairly good shape compared to the other one. But they'll go in temporarily. But yeah, the only thing that stopped me from putting this whole front end together is 4 of these little upper control arm bushings that were back ordered everywhere. Amazon, Jags, Summit, Rock Auto. Nobody had them. And I waited for about a month. 6 came available for all of the Western world. I took 4, bounced on it, and followed the tracking. There's like a 4-day delay, 2 to 4 day delay. I don't know why. Maybe they're coming right out of factory and not from the stores. So we got to wait. We got to play that game. But yes, we are caught up to the point where we are on TikTok and in real time. This is Friday night. You're seeing this Sunday. This is Friday night. And I'm going to take it easy. Have myself a beer. 8 o'clock here Friday night. Going to watch a movie. Me and the missus. And hopefully we'll have a great weekend. But anyway, sorry about the mess of this video. Bouncing around and the screen changing. I think I'm going to get around that. Don't you worry. But anyway, as always, thanks for all the subscribers. It's coming. I can see 1,000 at the end of the tunnel. And a lot of the people that were on my TikTok that were following here, and of course the old Plinko game, they've kind of moved over onto YouTube as well too, which is great. Liking the longer content, taking a couple weeks videos and squishing it into one. But yeah, love having you guys around. Anyway, catch you guys again next week.